Good morning. This is Notes from Underground. So, I guess our subject today is I found this picture online, and first I kind of skipped over it. It seemed inane. Wasn't a lot going on. It's, hunting. What's there to say about hunting? But just as I went to pass it, I came back, and there was some things that stayed with me that made me have to go back, and some of it has to do with if you look here, there's a lot of times in a photo when there's a small amount of people, three people, I prefer to have five because five will give you a better sampling. But three people, there's a lot going on here in the social dynamic. You have, I think clearly they're hunting. I think you have each people's kind of playing a different role in the hunt. Um, you have the two people sitting down. There's a gentleman and a woman. I believe that they're a couple. I believe they're husband and wife. They've been hunting before. This is not their first time. They prefer to be sitting during most of the hunt. If it starts, the activity starts gaining momentum, they will stand up, or maybe not. Maybe they do all of their hunting right from that perspective, from sitting. I, and there's the other gentleman who looks to me a little bit more prepared. He's standing up. If something happens, if there is an animal, um, he's ready to at least do his best to defend himself. Um, Now, I'm not saying that the other two they just seem very confident. Maybe they're more comfortable in that woods. Maybe they know it. They know the type of fauna that exists there, and there's not a lot of dangerous animals in this place. And what's interesting, I start looking at this, and immediately hunting comes in mind. You think camouflage. And back then, and this photo looks to me like it's late 19th century, early 20th century. This is what camouflage would be. You know, um, I guess they probably there's you can't tell from the photo, but these are very kind of brown clothes, and it helps you blend into the background. It probably worked very well. Um, I'm not quite sure of the function of the hats. It just may be fashion. Maybe but there's clearly, it's interesting. There's a social dynamic between the sitting and the standing, and the type of hats. It looks like the other gentleman. Uh, I think he probably would wear that hat in most of his social situations. It fits a lot. The other gentleman, I'm not sure why he's going with the. I've never quite seen hunting and a hat with that kind of hat. But maybe he has to go to a party after it, or maybe some business engagement after the hunt, and he just brings his hat along. And and the woman, her hat. I mean, clearly, I'm not. I've never quite seen a hat like that either in a hunting situation. I do think functionally though, if you think about it, if there's a loud noise or something, I'm sure that hat can muffle a lot of the noise. I'm sure maybe she's cold, and it definitely will keep her head at the proper temperature for hunting. I think from a camouflage perspective too. If you look at her jacket or her coat, it's a fur. It's probably the best of all of the camouflage, because she just probably, to the limited sight that an animal would have, she's either looks like just another animal, an animal in the forest. That was my first look. But the more I dug into it, I'm starting to think, like, I notice I always focus on the visual because it's a photo, but we really have to start thinking about the other dimensions of senses, and I was thinking about kind of the the sense of smell, like what would we have here? I think the gentleman to the left is probably the most seasoned hunter here, um, or the more, I should say, the more disciplined. I'm not saying they may all have logged a lot of years of hunting, but this gentleman here is somewhat disciplined. He has his, I think in that satchel that he has, He has all his equipment. He has his um, has extra shotgun shells. Maybe there's a sandwich. He seems pretty much there. I'm sure he doesn't. He's hip to the fact that you're not supposed to. You don't want to give off a smell in the forest. You want to. Animals can pick up on that quickly, and so he probably isn't doesn't have like a soap with a heavy scent that maybe he's been using. He probably was careful when he was eating before he went out not to get it on his hands and body to give to give off a scent. I'm gonna when I look at the other two, I think the man who's sitting down, I don't think he's the type who would really be taking those levels of precaution. I'm getting a heavy cigar scent coming off of him, and he's kind of proud of it. His stance to the animals is that we have advanced in culture. We have farming and humidors and the smell you see you're smelling here is superiority. And the woman to the right, I mean, I can see that coat when something just comes to mind is it probably smells a lot of like I could see it smelling of almost like a Christmas party, maybe that she had just attended or just ran it at her house with her family. I can see it smelling of pies and cakes, and I could see it smelling maybe of a roast, Christmas roast, or maybe a Christmas pheasant. Um, I could see, and again, I don't know why I'm saying this, but I can also smell children's laughter. So, I mean, that's the kind of vibe I'm getting from that coat. Although I think it will hide in the forest well. Um, she may just look like a big boulder. And definitely the gentleman in the center, to the animals, he may look like another very large boulder. And the gentleman who's standing, he may be giving himself away a little bit more because there's maybe more motion going on. Those other two, there's not really a lot of motion. Um, so I guess what's interesting too, I think that the two sitting down definitely know the territory very well. They know what to expect. They're not expecting a bear coming because they wouldn't be sitting like that. Um, I think a couple of other interesting facts that I wanted to bring up is also the woman is kind of holding a cane, so she doesn't expect to be doing much running. Um, and okay, so let me flip a little here because I do have a little context. When I did a little research on this, and